In the previous video, we created a function to generate a JWT for us, that is the create token function. Right now we are going to define the login function that will call this create token function to generate a JWT for us. So right now we're going to say from login, we're going to pass in as a parameter Gene context. Now Gene is a HTTP framework in Go. You could use alternative like Gorilla Mux or Chi, or you could use HTTP Serve Mux from the standard library, whichever one that works for you. I consider Gin pretty cool because it's very fast and it helps to reduce a lot of boilerplate codes. So having said all that, if you don't have Gin already installed on your local machine, you can run this command on your terminal. Go get github.com/gingonic. So if you already have that done, we could move forward with the application. The very first thing we're going to do is we're going to define a user like so, and we're going to get the requests from the user, from a user maybe using a Postman to send data, or from a front-end application like React or Vue. So whatever the user sending from the external, we're going to check if it binds to this user we define. What I mean is, if the user is sending the username or the password, it should conform with this schema we have here. What that is the schema type we have here. We have the username as a string and we have the password as a string. So if there's an error why this is happening, we're going to throw the error here, or we're going to return it to the user by using c.json. Remember, C is from this Gingonic package. So we're going to return a status to the user. You could use a status bad requests if you want. You could use status bad request, or I consider using status unprocessable entity. All right. So I'm going to say invalid JSON provided. Your error can be anything you want. So in case the user gives us a wrong information, so we're going to stop them here. After this, we're going to return. So pretty cool. This is the first layer of validation we do for the input. The next one we're going to do is we're going to compare. Let me just write the notes here. Compare the user from the request passed, okay, with the one we define. So we are comparing this user with the one we define. We're going to say this user, if the username, that is our user we define here, this user, the username, if the username is not equal to the username passed, right, or if the password, if the user.password is not equal to the one passed from in the request, we're going to stop the application. So we're going to return a JSON, and we're going to return a status code here. Let's say status, let's use unprocessable entity, and we're going to say please provide a valid login details, right? Please provide a valid login details. So this is the message I'm going to send to the user. Then we're going to return here. I think I'm seeing an error here. Let me check what the problem is. Oh, sorry, I've seen it. All right, so having done that, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to now create the token. So we're going to say token, right, or an error. Okay, create token using the user ID passed, right, user.id. Take note that if this data is valid, it invariably means that this is the user we are considering, and this user have an ID of 1, so we are going to be using the ID. In an ID situation where you are using a persistent layer like a database, you would have queried your DB to check if the username and the password exist. Then when it does, the user that you got from your DB, you get the ID and use it here. If creating the token returns an error, we are going to return a JSON, and we are going to return the status first. For status, we are going to say unprocessable entity, right? Then we are going to return the error here. Now this converts the error to a string for us, so we are going to return the error string here. So we're going to now say return. So this function will terminate it from here. If there is an error creating this, maybe this user ID is not valid or whatsoever that happens, we should return here. For this case, we could return instead of unprocessable entity, we could return status of unauthorized. So after this whole stuff, we'll now finally return a JSON of status OK if the token is created, right? So we're going to have status OK and the token return to the client. So this is all about creating the login function. The first thing we did was we validated the input data here, right? It should conform to this JSON, to this user struct we defined here. If it does not, we throw an error like so, invalid JSON provided. Then the next thing we did was we queried our DB. In this case, we are checking our in-memory user. If the data does not match, we also return an error and terminate here. So if everything goes as planned, we are going to create the user token for them. But if there's an error creating this token, we also terminate here and return the error string. Then the next thing is, if everything works, we are going to return a 200 status code, and we are going to return the token to the caller. So in the next tutorial, we are going to see how this login function works, and we are going to test it using Postman. So thank you very much for joining in, and see you in the very next tutorial.